Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Wendy and today I'm going to do the Once Upon a Book Club. It's the adult book subscription. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to open it up, check it out. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll read the book. So I may wear different things as I give an update. As always, coffee. I have a new coffee shirt today. It says keep calm, drink coffee. So if you don't know about this particular subscription, they give a book and then throughout the book have little things that go with it. And they'll tell you what page to open it on. As I read through the book, you'll see me pop back in here. I'll unwrap that as I get to that book page and then we'll continue on. That way I get to also keep the surprise as well. With that, let's go ahead and open up the box and see what book we have. Okay, all right, so this book, I already damaged my nails just washing my hair, so let's see, maybe not have this go towards me. Little Girl Scout safety here. Put that on the dog's crate. She won't mind. All right, so this is the Once Upon a Book Club, the adult. It's bringing books to life monthly. I do not actually know which month this was. Let's see if there's a date on here. I think it was this month. I should have written on here when I got it, but I didn't. So we're gonna just go for it. So I'm gonna open it up. This is what you get. So you can see. So we'll go ahead and take my coffee here because, you know, coffee is delicious. Oh my gosh, coffee. All right, where shall I put this? I can't put it on the rocking chair because my dog will knock it off. All right, so the first thing we've got here is it looks like a bookmark and then a little sticker pack. So let's go ahead and open this up. And the theme looks like it says Ghost in the Attic. And this was actually last month, so it was for August 2025. Ooh. On the back it says crab and avocado wrap with a recipe, which, you know what? I may try to make this, although I am allergic to dairy and this calls for Alfredo sauce, but I can make a dairy-free Alfredo sauce. Let's open this up. Let's see what we've got. All right, so the first thing we've got here is a collectible sticker and it says Asylum Hotel by Juliet Blackwell. So I'll let you have a look at that. Very cool. It says you can display your sticker collection, shop water bottles, posters, and more from Once Upon a Book Club. There's a little QR code. And then, as I mentioned, there's a bookmark, and it says, to fully experience this box, remember to only open your gifts once you reach the given page. Don't worry, we'll remind you, Once Upon a Book Club. And then on the back, it says Juliet Blackwell Asylum Hotel. Only your own. Let me try that again. Only our own regrets and fears and memories haunt us. Nice little quote with a little Corinthian column there. And then we've got another little sticker, it looks like, that says Asylum Hotel. And it's signed by Juliet Blackwell. So you've got a little signature there that you can, there's a name for these. Bookplate? Can't remember. But you can put this inside your book. So you've got an author signature there. This is the same quote here that says, only our own regrets and fears and memories haunt us by Juliet Blackwell, Asylum Hotel. And then on the back, it looks like a letter from the author. So I won't read all of this to you, but the main character, I will tell you, is named Aubrey Spencer. A name I can actually pronounce. Go figure. All right. It is looking like she comes across this Asylum Hotel and she's an architect. Here it looks like we've got a little flyer this talks about, I'm assuming this is the book cover, we'll get to that. And in here it says a conversation with Juliet Blackwell. She talks about what inspired the novel, the fact that it's got some excellent quotes. She answers the question with regard to has she ever had a paranormal encounter, and she says, sort of. She also believes that there's more than meets the eye, she says. And then she talks a little bit about who her favorite character to write is and why it's their favorite person. In here, she's got some discussion questions, such as, have you ever visited mineral or hot springs? Where at? What was your experience like? If you could visit a historical abandoned location, which one would you choose? What were your thoughts on the way Deputy Jenkins handled the investigation regarding Dimitri, which I assume are characters in the book. I haven't read it yet, but I will read it. And then it goes on to say, in this box you'll find gifts on page 82, 113, and 243. There's a recipe on the back, and it looks like there's a source for this recipe from Pillsbury.com. That's nice that they gave that attribution. Might as well grab a little slurp of coffee, if we will. I don't know about you, but I love me some coffee. All right. So the first one, remember, is page 83. So this is nicely shrink wrapped. We don't know what it is, but we will open it when we get to page 82. And then we've got page 113, which again, you see that column here, and it's got some ivy on here. And again, it's sort of this rectangular box. Guessing it's some sort of a tumbler or something. Page 243, it's got some little film reel here. I guess some of the younger people wouldn't necessarily know that because that's the old school stuff. Again, smaller rectangle. So we'll see what that is. And then the book. This one is a paperback book. I know one of the other books I got or that I received was a hardbound book and it had sprayed edges. This does not, but they do have their little sticker that says it's from Once Upon a Book Club, and you can take that off if you would like. The front of the book says, Some Guests Never Left, Asylum Hotel, a novel by Juliet Blackwell. Also mentions that she's a New York Times best-selling author. Put these back in here for a moment. Might as well take another drink. I don't know if you like coffee as much as I do, but it's good stuff. Okay, so the back of the book says, when a mysterious figure shows up in the photograph an architect takes of the derelict Hotel Seabrink, ghostly encounters and murder are unleashed. Aubrey Spencer loves photographing classic old buildings and abandoned places that hold old secrets. The Hotel Seabrink, perched overlooking the sea, is one such place. Currently empty but scheduled for a major renovation, it has a torrid history. Back in the 1920s, it hosted A-list celebrity clientele, and now the locals insist it is haunted by ghosts of two young women who died there. When Aubrey goes to photograph the site before the renovation begins, she bumps into a man named Dmitry Petrov. We heard about that. That was one of the author questions. A minor online celebrity who shares her fascination with old buildings, the Hotel Seabrink in particular. When he is found dead the next day at the base of a cliff, the police are quick to close the investigation. But Aubrey feels unsettled by the locals, who claim he was murdered. And that is not the first time someone interested in the hotel was killed. As she digs deeper into the property's dark history and its origins as an asylum, as well as Dimitri's professional rivalries, she becomes mired in an unsolved murder case from several decades earlier. One with eerie parallels to the contemporary case, but someone is determined to keep her from discovering the truth at any cost. And then it goes on to say, Praise for the Vineyards of Champagne, a beautifully captivating story that celebrates the sweetest bonds of human relationships. USA Today best-selling author Susan Meisner. So let's see when this book was written. She's written a lot of books and a couple of series. She's also written the Witchcraft Mystery Series, which sounds like something I would like to read during this spooky season that we're coming up on. And then also the Haunted Home Renovation Series, which, again, spooky season. Hello, this is Editing Wendy. I just want to point out that I had originally recorded this video back in September of 2025, but the file had corrupted, so I'm re-editing this several months later in May of 2026. All right, so this book, first edition, July 2025. Let's see, I can't use this for the Herkid because I already read a book for July 2025. But I think, no, I already did the paranormal one also. I could probably do it for the color orange because it's got orange on here. And I can't remember if I've done Become the Avatar. And if I haven't, I may do water because there's some sea here and waves and things. I'm excited to get into this. I'm going to start reading this today. And like I said, oh, speaking of which, when you're on there, when you get to your pages, remember, it'll tell you when to open your gifts. And I saw a different one. I could have just turned right to the page. What was it, 243? And I'm over here just being weird. So you can see the little tag. And then the other one was 83. Okay, so we got 113. Ooh, this isn't actually in there, but inside they've got a little ransom style note. That's kind of fun. And then page 83. Again, the reminder to open up the gift. All right, so I'll see you soon. All right, second. If you're gonna read, you gotta sit. Go girl. Go girl. Yeah. Can you help me read? So that's interesting. The book takes place in on the Northern California coast, which is nice because I'm based out of California. Okay, so I've been reading this Asylum Hotel and I finally got to page 83. And we're at the point where it says to open your gift. So a little brief update as far as what's been happening. So the book is based in Northern California. It's actually not too far from where I grew up as a kid. So I recognize a lot of the landmarks that she's talking about as regards Highway 1 and Gualala and Sea Ranch Hotel and all of that. So Asylum Hotel is this hotel called Hotel Seabrink, and it's based in Northern California, about a half hour north of Gualala, it sounds like. And the main character, Aubrey, is photographing Hotel Seabrink because she's an architect. She lives in Oakland, but she loves old abandoned buildings and cemeteries and stuff like that. So she's photographing this, and as she's photographing this old Hotel Seabrink, she runs across this YouTuber, Dmitry Petrov. He has a YouTube channel where he goes and he talks about old abandoned buildings, and so that's kind of where they bond over this. And while they're in there and they're perusing and capturing photos and they're chatting and everything, they're bonding over their shared hobbies and interests. So they go downstairs into the basement where they have these mineral baths. They start hearing these weird sounds like an elevator clanking. They hear somebody like traipsing around, and eventually they see this like teenage kid that's down there. And he tells them about the curse of Seabrink. Basically, if you see a woman up at the top of the attic stairs, you'll die within 24 hours. So, you know, a basic like murder horror trope, right? So you see this mysterious woman, you die within 24 hours. As they're leaving, they start to smell smoke and they kind of scramble to get out. And once they're out of the building, Dimitri looks up. He has this weird look on his face, and Aubrey asks him about it, and he's like, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing. So they go off to her hotel, and they're chatting, they're getting to know each other over drinks, yada, yada, yada. But she wakes up the next morning, and he's not there. And she's like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. She's like, man, I kind of stood up. So she goes downstairs to get some coffee and, you know, kind of get over her little hangover, because we all know how those are. As she's going through the hotel lobby, she hears a commotion going on. They essentially found that Dimitri is at the bottom of this dead man's bluff. And so the cops are ruling it as a suicide, and she's like, is it though? Like, he didn't seem like he was like, you know, suicidal in any sort of way. So the point where she is now is she goes down to Gualala where his hotel room is, and she's rifling through his hotel with one of the paramedics that pulled him up from the bottom of the bluff. Hold on a second. I have no idea who I thought I was kidding and not getting a coffee cup. Oh, today's coffee cup. Sorry, it's a little dirty. I've been drinking out of it, but this is what it says. A friend of mine at work gave it to me, so thank you, Andrea. She's there in his room with this other paramedic, Jasper. And she finds a few weird things. A journal labeled Seabrink, some detailed notes about the building and its history. She found a thumb drive, some other things, and then she finds 2 notes composed of words torn from a magazine and glued onto some plain white piece of paper that says, "Answer me!" exclamation point, and "you can't ignore me." And she's recalling when she saw his phone in his backpack in her hotel room before she gave it to the officer that's investigating his death, that she saw a text that said, "You were warned." So anyway, in the book, they put the text in here. So it's kind of, you know, kind of goes with the vibe of the moment. So that's where we are in the book. Let's find out what the gift is that corresponds with this page. So let's just have a little slurp here. Nope, this is the wrong one. This one, page 82. All right. We cannot use our nails as tools, so put this back. All right, let's see what we've got. Okay, so this is what the box looks like. It's got some stained glass windows, it looks like, which in the old hotel, St. Ambrose Hotel where Dimitri was staying, they referenced stained glass. So I'm assuming that's why this looks like stained glass. So it looks like we have a little canvas pouch, which is what Aubrey found in the desk inside Dimitri's hotel room, where she was pulling out all the things. So there was a journal and a canvas pouch that everything was in. You know, the journal, the notes, the thumb drive, they were all inside this pouch. So we're going to take a look at this. Set that aside. Let's look at this. So it says Seabrink notebook, 60 pages, A5 size. And then it says Once Upon a Book Club, Hotel Seabrink. You can see that there. And it's very thin because it's, 65 pages. And we open it up. We see that it's lined, right? And at the top, it's got where you can fill in the weather. So it's sunny, partly sunny, and rainy, along with the days of the week. Right up here, it's pretty cute. And then over here, you've got a memo number and a date in the upper right-hand corner here. And then as we look through the book, it's all 65 pages of that. So that's kind of cute. And then the pouch, there's something else in here, but the pouch says, if you spend your whole life waiting for the storm, you'll never enjoy the sunshine, by Morris West. So that's pretty fun. And it says Dimitri's canvas bag from Once Upon a Book Club attached to it. That's pretty cool. So it's got a little leather loop here. Let's see what's inside. We've got a piece of paper inside. I think it's the ransom note. Well, I don't know if it's a ransom note, but it's the note. Look, answer me. Although in the book it had an exclamation point. And it says, you can't ignore me, in the ransom note style. That's pretty cool. All right. So anyway, our next update with this book, the notebook doesn't actually fit inside, but it's okay. So our next update, the next gift we get to open will be on page 113. So I'll be back, as Arnold Schwarzenegger said in Terminator. So, see you soon. Okay, so been reading this off and on today. Had to take my mom to the doctor, so yeah, there's a brief pause there. But oh, I forgot to tell you about the coffee. The coffee, it's just your basic Rayleigh's Fog Chaser medium roast. But my coffee pot, my coffee machine gives a nice little crema on here, so it is delicious. Highly recommend. This is not sponsored, by the way. None of my stuff is sponsored because I have like 9 subscribers, so we're working on that. But where did we leave off? Okay, so before we found the bag, which I don't see here. Where'd I put? Oh, it's over there. Anyway, last time we were on page 82 and we found the canvas bag with the funny ransom note and stuff. So what I wanted to show you was, as I continued on, it turns out that the officer investigating the suicide / death of Dimitri is somewhat incompetent. Like, he's just kind of lazy and chooses the path of least resistance. So he's not really great at investigating, and everyone calls him Kenny Boy, and it's sort of a derogatory name, it sounds like. But yeah, so, and then Aubrey decides to leave and go down to Gualala. So she went to the hotel room with Jasper and they found that stuff. Well, then they went and they chatted some more, and they cleaned out his room because the innkeeper there at St. Ambrose Hotel was like, hey, I've got a paying person who's coming and we still need to clean this room. You guys got to clear out of here. So Jasper and Aubrey gathered up all the stuff and cleaned it out. So Aubrey leaves and she goes back to her hotel room. As she's walking by, she talks to the hotel clerk at the front desk at her hotel, the Driftwood Cove Inn. And he says, oh, there's this manila package here for you. And so he gives her this envelope and she opens it, and it's basically a ransom note, and it's got this in there that basically says, back off now or the Seabrink curse will take you next. And one of the things that's fun is they do put some of the off-text writing in here. So not only does this piece just slide out, but they also put it in the book itself. But one of the things that she saw in Dimitri's stuff is that he had some notes about the Seabrink Hotel and the deaths that have occurred there. Again, you can see that they've put like other text in here that looks like handwriting. So that's kind of like fun and visually interesting. But also in there was a note from somebody named Effie May, who was apparently a maid at the Seabrink Hotel when it was still a hotel. And she's talking about seeing movie stars and actresses, and you can see how like the text is there. But what I liked about that is that it's written of that socioeconomic of that period, right? So instead of saying told, it's, you know, like T-O-L-D, she spelled it T-O-L-E-D, right? And she spells despair wrong, and it's spelled more phonetically versus how it's actually spelled. So I like that that's in there. It adds kind of a little cozy vibe to it, if you will, cozy mystery vibe. So that's kind of fun. And the letter was dated April 12th, 1932. So that's kind of interesting. So now where we are is we're starting this next little part in the book, and there's a cute little quote with some birds, iconography, pictures. And the thing says, the little blurb says, as I felt the breath, as I felt the breath, non-numa, leave me. I vowed I would never leave the Seabrink. And then here we are on chapter 11, and it's saying to open your gift. Basically, it starts off this page, it's talking about how the night before, or that night, Aubrey calls her best friend Nikki and says, hey, do you know anything about this? And her friend's like, why are you having me look this up? Like, what's up with that? And she was trying to be vague, and her friend's like, dude, I'm gonna come up. Well, she didn't say dude, that's me. But she's like, hey, I'm gonna come up. I hear you're fine, you're telling me everything's fine, but I'm gonna come. So her friend shows up the next morning, fairly early-ish, I assume. Aubrey's still asleep, and she kind of describes her friend as athletic, snarky, and a fan of true crime and truth-telling tarot cards. So let's see what this is. So we're on page 113. Again, this is that great Corinthian column thing here. So, and of course, I'm glad I leave the scissors around. Probably shouldn't wave them around my face, but yeah, whatever. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Ooh, yep, I was right. It says it's a travel mug. See that? And it says, insulated travel mug, 20 ounce, hand wash only, once upon a book club. So you can kind of see that there. All right. So let's set this over here. Shall we look at this? All right, so it's wrapped in plastic here, and it says, I like true crime and maybe 3 people. You can see that? That's kind of cute. It's got a little sliding sippy lid here. Awesome. That is cool. This feels like embossed paint, like extra thick paint, which is probably why you don't want to put this in the dishwasher. It'll take the paint off, I assume. It doesn't say where it's made. There is literally nothing on here about it, so we're gonna assume it's made in China until proven otherwise. So yeah, that's where we are. We've got a tumbler, and we've got Nikki's, or Aubrey's friend Nikki, now on the scene. So Nikki's going to be staying over for a few days. Our next check-in will be page 243. So when I get there, I'll come back and we'll chat about what's happened in between 113 and 243. Thank you. See you soon. Okay, so It's been a few days since we talked about this. Since then, what has happened? Nikki is brought up to speed with what has happened. They being Aubrey and Nikki. They've been running around trying to find out what the mystery is, not only regarding the Seabrink Hotel, but also what happened with Dimitri. So it's been, a little more than 100 pages. Nikki, Aubrey, and one of the volunteer firefighters, the one who brought Dimitri up from Dead Man's Cliff, they went back to the hotel. Aubrey and Nikki were in one car, and they got there before the volunteer firefighter. Aubrey and Nikki get there and they drive straight through the iron gates into the hotel. They park, and Aubrey wants to know where the source is for these mineral baths. It's outside the hotel. So they follow along this muddy trail, and Nikki spots like a pipe, and so they follow that pipe, the source of the mineral springs. Up a little hill from the hotel, because again, this was all gravity fed, because remember, this hotel was built in an asylum where, people with various mental illnesses or people who were essentially being abandoned by their families. So they're up there and they're exploring, and they notice this occult the occult like ritual up there by the mineral baths or the mineral spring source. Then they start coming back down because they're like, oh, well, Jasper's gonna be here any minute and he's gonna go inside the hotel with them. So they stumble down the hotel, they slip and fall. It's muddy, slippery, whatever. They get down there and Jasper's waiting for them. And he's like, I thought we were gonna wait outside. So anyway, they go inside and Jasper's like, I gotta go back because I have a real job. So we gotta make this snappy. Kind of briefly exploring, but Aubrey wants to go up that staircase. Remember, the curse is if you see the girl in the attic window, within 24 hours, you will die. So they go up this staircase to that attic. There's a sense of foreboding that Aubrey has, Anyway, they get up there and they're kind of looking around. It's obviously old, abandoned, musty, it smells bad. Aubrey goes and looks through one of the wardrobes in there, and she realizes that there's a very similar valet pass-through in the back of this wardrobe. So she climbs in, and Nikki follows her. Jasper stays out in the hallway to stand guard, I guess. So Nikki and Aubrey are inside this room, and it's got old canned goods along the side, a bunch of old crackers, and in one corner of the room they see a bed, and Aubrey's like, looks like there's something inside the covers. So she pulls back the covers. Lo and behold, there's a skeleton. That skeleton has been there obviously for decades at this point, but she still has an apron on. They shriek, they leave, and Jasper's like, yeah, we gotta call this in. As they're leaving, they get back out to the front of the hotel, and they realize someone has put a brand new chain and locked it around those iron gates. And they're like, oh crap, how are we gonna get out? And Aubrey remembers from the first time she was in there that there was a tool room in there, and she's like, well, maybe there's some bolt cutters or something that we can get out. So they go down there into the basement, past the mineral baths, they're trailing back through there, and they start hearing this noise, and they're hearing this the clanking of the elevator again, and they're starting to smell smoke, and some of the same sensations that they had the first time Aubrey was there, they're now experiencing again. Excuse me. They head down and they hear more, so they grab a couple of hammers for Aubrey and Nikki. Jasper grabs a sledgehammer. They don't want to go back out because they hear the sounds and they don't know what's out there. Nikki says she hears footsteps that aren't theirs. Aubrey remembers that Dimitri had mentioned there was a wine cellar down there, and he thinks that it's a pass-through, that they can go through that all the way out. So they head down there, they take one of the wine shelves and they push it up against the door once they're in, you know, to slow down whoever's following them. And they're going through this pitch dark cave, and there's a little stream of water because, again, it's all about the mineral baths here. So they're going through there with their flashlights on their cell phones, and they're trying to be fast but also somewhat safe, and they finally make it out. Dimitri was right that this did go all the way through. It was, you know, based on the time period, maybe it was built so that it was for either smuggling in booze during the time of Prohibition while the hotel was in full swing. Maybe it was just part of the way that they had goods delivered, you know, so that it didn't interfere with the guests, and the guests didn't see that like food and sundries were being delivered. Could be either or both. So they get out. Jasper parked his truck outside the gates. So they just took his car and went back into town. And when they get to a point where there's cell service, Jasper then calls Deputy Kenny Jenkins. So he's like, I told you, like, why'd you go there? I told you not to go there. And they're like, well, you know, reasons, obviously. So their plan is to go back to the hardware, get some bolt cutters, go back, cut the lock off, and then get Aubrey's car out. They drive into town, hardware store. So Jasper gets the bolt cutters. Jasper also grabs a duffel bag with a rifle in it because he's like, I'm not taking any chances. So they get up there. Jasper easily cuts the lock. They get her car back. While they're there talking, you know, Deputy Jenkins shows up and he's like, why are you here again? And so they repeat that whole story. And then they leave, and Cameron goes inside for whatever reason. Cameron, Jasper, and the deputy go back into the hotel, and Jasper shows them where the body is. So then he comes back out, and Cameron stays inside to do whatever he's doing. Jasper's like, okay, I'll follow you two out. So you go first, and I'll follow you. At the split in the road, Cameron goes, I guess he goes south to Gualala, and then Aubrey and Nikki go north back to Driftwood Cove. So the next day, Aubrey and Nikki are going to talk with someone named Deb Goldman, I think that's her name, Deb. Yeah, Deborah Goldman, who is an old hippie, and she lives in Seahorse Ranch. What's that place called? She lives there. It's swanky. She and her husband bought the place way back when, and she even comments that had they not bought it way back when, there's no way she could afford it now, which is true because it's a pretty swanky place. So anyway, they're chatting with Deborah and I guess her boyfriend or her friend, Gideon. I forget Gideon's last name, but Gideon was some sort of weird geologist at Stanford. Oh, yeah, theoretical geology. So Gideon was a theoretical geologist at Stanford. Deborah was an archivist at, the local university as well. Not Stanford, I don't think, because she didn't mention Stanford. Anyway, they're both retired. So Gideon is the one who's bringing about the suit to contest the land deed so that they don't develop this, because they're like, no, this should be left for historical purposes, or if anything, it should be given back to the local Kashishia Indian tribe or Native American tribe, but it shouldn't be developed because, the land is like got some curses and hexes and bad mojo going on with it, right? Because, all the people who are dying. So where they are now, they talk to Aubrey and Nikki talk to them. They get a little bit more history about the place. And then as they're leaving the sea ranch, Aubrey's like, hey, there's a place where we can go see the baby seals. It's within walking distance. So they walk along the cliff, and not gonna lie, I'm like, I totally expect Nikki to fall off because while they were there at Seabrink, Nikki swears she saw a girl in the attic window, which again, remember, that's the impetus for the 24-hour clock to then like be cursed and the end of days for you. However, they walk down there just fine. Aubrey's taking pictures of the seals and the shells and the coastline, and Nikki befriends this dog, throws ball, and there's some nice photos that Aubrey takes. They go back, each of them takes a shower, they order room service and a bottle of wine. And then the next day, as Aubrey is going through the photos, she realizes that Ty is in a couple of the photos. So Ty is Nikki's ex-boyfriend, whom she has a restraining order against because of domestic violence, remember? They call the San Francisco PD to let him know, hey, he's here. He hasn't violated the restraining order. He hasn't been within 100 yards. He's here in this remote village at the same time we are, so that's a bit weird. And then they also tell Deputy Jenkins as well, and he's like, okay, well, I'll make a report, but there's not much I can do because he hasn't technically violated the restraining order. And they're like, yeah, we just want it known, just in case. Now what they're doing is Aubrey's woken up again for the second time in a row at 4:07 a.m. And then when the day Dimitri died, the hotel clock, Aubrey's hotel clock, also stopped at 4:07. So again, it's 4:07 a.m. Aubrey looks over to make sure her friend is still there, and she is. She's fine. She's sleeping soundly. So now, because we are on page 223, we're going to go ahead and open our last gift with this book. So here we are. This is what we get. This little package. And as always, we do not use our nails as tools. We will use scissors as tools. I feel like that's famous last words. Oh my gosh, the dog is being ridiculous over here. You can't see her, but trust me, she is. I'm gonna set that down there. Told you it was famous last words. Should have kept it. There. All right, so what we see here is a little USB power cord here. So are we gonna get some sort of alarm clock or something? Let's have a little shot of courage here. All right. Yep, it looks like it. See, we've got some buttons up here. We're having a hard time with getting this out. Ah, look at that. And it's got, I hope you can see that, 407 there. We've got a little DC charger here and a little battery. Looks like it takes 3 AA batteries, AAA batteries, sorry. And we've got a little protective film here. I wonder if I take this off if the 407 goes away. Yes, so when we take this off, that 407 goes away. So let's save that. And let's go ahead and plug this in and see what we see, shall we? If you see here, this is a regular USB-C. Let me try that again. This is a USB-A. So I have to go get a connector because my connector over here is a USB-C. So give me just a moment. Okay, got the charger. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go plug it in. Actually, okay, I'm gonna plug it in over here. All right, so hopefully you can see this. Hold on, gotta get a little bit of puppy love here. Okay, that's the year. So it's defaulting 2018, so we're gonna go to 2025. That's the month, so we'll go to 9. And then today is the 21st. Told you it's been a few days since I was able to read. Okay. And then the time. Okay. There we go. I guess guess I had to hold it for longer. Okay, so it's 10. Now it's 20. Let's say 23 by the time we get there. All right. Now we wait 10 seconds and it's supposed to like just set it. So we'll see how that goes. There we go. Now it's set. So remember, on the face of it, the time on the clock always stops at 4:07. So now we'll read the rest of the book and see what happens. And we'll go from there. So we'll leave that. And I'll see you hopefully by the end of the day. I should be able to finish it at the end of the day. Let's see, we've got about 130 pages. So I should be able to finish that. The two younger boys are going to trampoline park. So I should have time to finish reading this. And then I'll see about editing it. Anyway, thanks. See you soon. Okay, so I finally finished the Asylum Hotel by Juliet Blackwell. I sort of picked at this. I'm not great at it, so I kind of scuffed up that, but that's okay. Part where we left off was Aubrey woken up and it was 4:07. It's not quite 4:07, it's 3:05 in the afternoon instead of 4:07 a.m. But the story continues on and has a few twists and turns. Overall, I would give the book, I'd give it 3.5 stars. I think that's a good rating for it. The reason I give it 3.5 stars is, one is it's a little bit predictable. I really did appreciate the gifts that we got, which included the clock you see over there in the corner, wherever, and then also the tumbler. Let me grab that for you. I know I'm saying these backwards, but that's okay. The tumbler, or travel mug, as you will, which again says, I like true crime and maybe 3 people. Remember, that's a fun little travel mug with stainless steel interior. And also the canvas bag and the notebook with the ransom page in it. That's good. And then the ending was pretty good. So here's the canvas bag again, just a little refresher for the Once Upon a Book Club. Here it says, if you spend your whole life waiting for the storm, you'll never enjoy the sunshine, by Morris West, which is kind of a fun little quote for this book, as well as remember the Hotel Seabrink notebook journal that they reference, that Dimitri would keep his notes in. And again, it's lined. It's got some spaces for a memo number and a date, and then also the weather that you can choose and the day of the week. And then also, before I forget, again, we have the ransom note, which was kind of fun with the magazine cutout letters. So that's pretty fun. So I don't want to give too many spoilers. Like I said, the book is a little predictable, and it definitely falls under the murder mystery genre. I guess it could be a little cozy because it's not overly scary. Like, obviously it's got some death, so, that's trigger warnings. It's got some suicide talk, which is also trigger warning. Some hints of emotional abuse also. So if you have any of those types of trigger warnings, you may want to hold off on reading this. But I do believe that this is a really good book for, it's late summer now, but also fall, because it does have that murder mystery feel, and it's not super scary, if you know what I mean. Like it's more of just a mystery. Yeah, overall, it's really good. I would recommend it. 3.5 stars from me. If you have any thoughts regarding the gifts and things that came with the Once Upon a Book Club. And again, this is not sponsored. I buy the subscription with my own funds, so it's not sponsored in any way. But if you have any thoughts or opinions about either the gifts, or the packaging, or even the book choice, like feel free to leave them down below and let me know your thoughts. Again, if you have any other books that you'd recommend that I read, leave me a suggestion down in the comments and feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you, everyone.